Redoing it, replay. I'll wear your granddad's clothes. I look incredible. I'm in this big ass coat from that thrift shop down the road. I'm gonna pop some tags. Only got $20 in my pocket. I'm hunting, looking for a come up. This is fucking awesome.
Is that your grandma's coat?
Is that your grandma's
Yes.
coat? I love that song,
Good
dude.
song.
I heard that song this morning on the way to here, and so I just had. That's why we had to do that whole thing this morning with like the whole, like it's fun, and I wish that it wasn't so hard to like set that all up. What's up, guys? 2021, we back a little bit late, a little bit early. It depends. I think everyone's going to be either working or still at home in the deep nausea of like coming out of the New Year's. I don't know. I drove by my buddy's house and his car was still parked and it still had snow on it. It was like yesterday. I'm like, wake up, man. I yelled out the window, like, wake up.
It's snowy outside.
It's New Year's. Get back to work, bitch. No. So we got a couple things planned today. Let's do a little bit of review, Eric. 2020.
What happened?
Well, we all know what happened. But can we say that from January to March, things didn't start off good, even like before. So if we go to the little recap on the visual capitalist here, we'll see that the year in review is well done here. So we just took this, and we're going to read it off here a little bit just to kind of keep us on. The year in review, 2020, in 20 visualizations. For the people watching, for the people listening, what's up, man? Happy New Year. So, Australian brush fires. That's how it started in January. For some in the southern hemisphere who ushered in the New Year first, it started on fire. Reuters assessed the scale of damage caused by brush fires across Australia. In fact, total burned areas reached 18.6 million hectares, which is 186,000 square kilometers by March, bigger than the total landmass of the entire countries like Cuba. On fire. Here's the damage done in the state of New South Wales alone compared to previous years. Record brush fire damage in New South Wales. So while brush fires are common in Australia this year, dry conditions fueled the flames. The fires raged for nearly 80 days, displacing or killing 3 billion animals. Are they counting insects? Like how 3 billion animals, dude?
Australia got some.
They got a lot of animals. A devastating biodiversity loss for the country. Yeah. So that started off 2020.
The warm start.
Yeah, well, down there it's obviously the height of summer, right? In January, but
So in January it's the warmest.
in Australia,
Huh?
in the southern hemisphere, Christmas time is on the beach in Australia, right?
Nice.
Yeah. Rising Iran-U.S. tensions in January. Graphic number 2. Are you showing the graphics? Cool. Yeah, thank you. What we had here, this airstrike. Yeah, remember that? They shot down the airplane.
Yeah, with this dude from.
There was 2 actually. So like it says that U.S. airstrike incinerated the car of General Qasim Soleimani, a security mastermind and one of Iran's most powerful military strategists. U.S. officials claimed that Iran was planning an imminent attack, and in retaliation, Iran fired 2 rockets at U.S. military bases located in Iraq. No one was killed. And then we go down. It says later in mid-January, Iran's Revolutionary Guard admitted to mistakenly shooting down a Ukrainian passenger jet and killed 176 people. So we're starting really good off in 2020. We got it's really negative, man. Then you have in March, things really got shitty, and the spread of the novel coronavirus. You've heard of Patient 0, but what about Patient 31? So before February, cases of the still unnamed virus were largely contained within China, with the rest of the world cautiously observing the country's containment efforts. Slowly but surely, the virus began to spread beyond China's border. South Korea's 31st confirmed COVID-19 case which was behind the rapid spread of the virus to potentially up to 1,160 contacts in the country, served as a warning to the rest of the world how fast the virus could spread. That's a interesting graphic there.
So this dude made it all way worse.
No, I think it's like,
Or just the people.
yeah. So patient 30, and then patient 31. Yeah, this patient had by far the most contacts initially traced by the Korean Center of Disease Control. So this one person had so much contact, but it just kind of, I guess, when they can trace it back to that guy, they realized by tracing it back to him that he got over 1,100 people infected, and so they realized how infectious this is. And then, of course, shit goes downhill. The coronavirus crash, S&P 500, erased over a third of its value in under a month. That was a good time to jump in the stock market, apparently. Then lockdown life begins. I don't need to go into this. We all know. We've all been living it, man. You don't need to listen to the podcast to figure out what's going on with Corona. Historic U.S. job losses. Stimulus announced in the U.S. Oil prices go negative. Black Lives Matter protests. Yeah. That was hardcore. I can't breathe. These few words sparked by the ongoing flames of a significant movement this summer, Black Lives Matter, after the killing of George Floyd on May 25th by police. The Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project recorded over 7,750 Black Lives Matter linked demonstrations over a 3-month span. Oh, wow. They're showing the different... that's an interesting graphic. The world works from home. Tesla becomes world's most valuable automaker. That's kind of cool. Go Tesla. The company is now worth more than the largest 9 automakers combined and is set to enter the S&P 500 officially on December 21st. Tesla will be the most valuable company to ever enter the index, ranking as the 8th largest overall. $183 billion.
It's a big amount of cash.
It's a big amount of cash. And then we're going to go to the Beirut explosion. That shit was cray-cray. Let's look at the videos here.
Da haben wir es nicht da. Also.
That was... Boom.
On the wall.
Yeah. That was awesome. Awesome explosion. Wasn't awesome, obviously, for the people living in Beirut. But just as far as the explosion goes, it was just like... And then look at the wedding picture, the wedding video. That was crazy because they had like a really nice gimbal camera on this woman. Yeah, it's a nice video. It's like today we're going to do the video shoot for the wedding. Looking beautiful. Huge eyes. Jesus
the gimbal holds steady.
Christ. Yeah, this is the gimbal steady, but look at that. And that was like miles away, right? So, yeah. That was crazy. While the world grappled with numerous biological and natural disasters, human error led to a deadly explosion that rocked Beirut's port. The blast was broadcast around the world in real time as people filmed the fire on their devices. Using satellite data, NASA and NYT mapped the extent of the damage, which claimed 135 lives and affected 305,000 more people. The explosion was the biggest accident of its kind in modern history, triggered by the exposure of combustible ammonium nitrate, a key ingredient in fertilizers, to an open flame due to poor storage. Beyond the human toll, the financial cost of the explosion was estimated above $15 billion. And then I have a cool breakdown of the largest accidental conventional explosions. The Port Beirut disaster is in the middle with 1.3 kilotons. I'm assuming the KT is kilotons. And then you have, like, look at that, the Texas City disaster, the Halifax explosion in Canada. Those are all bigger ones. Port Chicago. That was a hardcore explosion, though, and it's crazy. I remember reading that the idea or the problem was that you had these fertilizers or whatever. in port, and like the boat needed to be removed from port, but there was like some type of administrative problems where they couldn't figure out where the boat needs to go, and so it was just sitting around over like a longer period of time, longer than it should have been.
It's in the water.
I know the fire. Well, it says that it caught open flame. It caught up to an open flame, which obviously, I guess you can imagine, like when it's all sitting together, it just becomes combustible because of it breaks down. Like I just know from like when I have grass in my backyard and I let it sit over summer, and you go in there with a shovel, like it's hot in there, you know, because all the reactions are going on and stuff like that. So it's similar, I'm assuming, to this with ammonium nitrate.
In chemistry class, we had this one teacher that he dropped also some kind of nitrate into water and it made an explosion.
Yeah, just dropping nitrate. Yeah.
So flames and water can cause a big reaction.
The shortest bear market in history ends. So things went really shitty, and then all of a sudden it went right back to being like, oh, nothing happened. Corona and everything's all good. We're going to be back. And the market's kind of chilled out. Then you had the U.S. wildfire season. Look at that, dude. California all the way up to Vancouver. The wildfires, just insane. All the way into like Washington and Oregon, Washington, Idaho. I mean, that's all the red zone. 2020 was the most active year on record for wildfire. It's just like when you look at the stuff, like you just realize like, when are the aliens coming? when is it they're gonna just turn off the simulation and say, humans, you're no longer welcome here. 2020 was the most active year on record for wildfires yet, with California. See, on record again. Like, how long have we been keeping records? With California and Oregon being particularly hard hit, while some wildfires are caused by natural occurrences like lightning strikes, an overwhelming majority, 85 to 90%, happen because of human causes such as discarded cigarettes and campfire debris. This is an unprecedented event. We now have the largest wildfire in California history, as well as the third largest and fourth largest and 5 of the top 10. Professor and senior fellow at Stanford University, Noah Diffenbach. Yeah, and then we're rolling into November. We're getting close to today. The 2020 U.S. presidential election. We went over that. It was, look at that though. The total cost, inflation adjusted. So, but still, like the amount of money they spent. The Democrats, $8.4 billion spent on their, like that's something that's not in Germany at all. Like I don't think that, like there's just so much money, you know. And in 2020, the U.S. election spending hit over $13 billion, more than twice the amount spent on the entire 2000 and twice on the entire. That's insane. So of this total, congressional spending topped $7 billion, with Democrats spending 64% of more than Republican candidates for the House of Senate. President Biden was the first candidate ever to raise $1 billion, while Trump raised $596 million, which shows that everyone's like, get Trump out of here. And then December, COVID-19's third wave. Like history tells us, pandemics come in waves. The third wave of COVID-19 escalated in November when cases began to surge. On November 8th, the 7-day average of new daily cases hit 100,000 in America. By the end of November, global cases soared to 60 million. And since then, cases have trended upward, leading local governments worldwide to enforce social distancing requirements for the winter holiday season. The below graphic of the Reddit helps show the latest surge in U.S. cases. And then the vaccination efforts kick off. So that's what's coming at us now. Get a vaccine. If a vaccine for COVID-19 were available, I would get it. I didn't say that, but what that's read and it's in this graphic I'm reading. Who's saying that? It's like in quotations, but they don't say who it is. On to the next one. After the wild ride that was 2020, many people are wondering what 2021 will have in store. In the first half of the year, vaccine distribution will surely take center stage. As well, economic recovery will be in focus as physical businesses resume more typical activity and regions slowly open up travel and tourism again. Much like the financial crisis of 2008 was an inflection point for the economy, the COVID-19 pandemic has changed the course of human history. Chaos can breed opportunity, and even though unemployment spiked to record highs in the U.S., new business applications did as well. Will things return to normal? Pfft, no way. As the many twists and turns of the past year have demonstrated, our complex, interconnected world is far from static. The next black swan is always just around the corner. I was talking to Marcus about black swans because I'm reading this book, and this whole black swan, you know what the principle of the black swan is?
No.
The principle of the black swan is that good morning and Happy New Year, Manuela. Yeah, the black swan is like this idea that we used to think there was only white swans until you find the black swan. That's like the basic way of saying it. So the black swans didn't exist because we didn't know they existed. So there's only white swans. So this swan, this animal, wie heißt das auf Deutsch? Ein Schwan, is just only white. And then all of a sudden, some guy, like, I can read you the black swan theory. It's the theory on Wikipedia. It's even called a theory. So the black swan theory, or theory of black swan events, is a metaphor that describes an event that comes as a surprise, as a major effect, and is often inappropriately rationalized after the fact with the benefit of hindsight. The term is based on an ancient saying that presumed black swans did not exist, and saying that became reinterpreted to teach a different lesson after the first European encounter with them. The theory was developed by Nassim Nicholas Taleb to explain the disproportionate role of high-profile, hard-to-predict, and rare events that are beyond the realm of normal expectations in history, science, finance, and technology. The non-computability of the probability of the consequential rare events using scientific methods owing to the very nature of small probabilities. The psychological biases that blind people, both individually and collectively, to uncertainty and to a rare event's massive role in historical affairs. So just you don't see it coming, right? Humans can never really predict things. Yeah, and so the guy that the book that I'm reading, Never Split the Difference. This is a pretty good book. It's from this guy here. Never Split the Difference. Never Split the Difference. No, it's not a guy. Like that's not his name. What's his name? His name is Amazon. What do you got here? Chris Voss. He was a FBI
agent.
Negotiator, but hardcore. Like he yeah. But he was like, you can tell he's definitely been in the trenches of dealing with people, and so he brought up at the very end, like his company is called Black Swan, something like some Black Swan group or something like that. Because he thinks that, like, if you listen or if you pay attention, especially in his environment where they're dealing with these people that are holding people hostage and stuff like that, they try and discover like what the black swan is from that. Like, what are they missing? What does that guy really want? Why is he taking people and putting them in the bank with a shotgun and doing these things? You know, like why? And so he figured out that if you like the way you communicate with people, if your communication strategy with someone is to actually try and figure out what these black swans are, everyone has them, that you have a better chance of just communicate. You have just a better chance of understanding each other. So it's, you know, it's pretty psychological, but the way that he does it was very practical in his experience as a FBI negotiator. Or it's an interesting book, but it's very tricky to try and actually use these techniques in everyday life, because it's a lot of subconscious stuff, you know, and it kind of like can take you away from the conversation itself. You can't let it distract you from just talking to someone normally, you know.
No, it can.
Like when you talk to someone, you try and figure out what are they really trying to say. If you're in tune to it, if you're empathetic, then you can actually, you can hear it in their voice. Like do they have, like, he talks about this thing called like the late night radio voice. The late night radio voice is like what we have here. It's like you can listen to this, you have it in your head, you have the headphones in, And you don't want my voice shouldn't be like, hey guys, what are you doing tonight? And you're like, God, it's annoying. You want like that, like, hey, welcome to the Real Irvington podcast here, and I don't want to sleep either. And it's like, I want to talk about that. I have this one jiu-jitsu guy that I watch, and he's so scientific about the way that he teaches it that I just fall asleep because he just talks like in this straight like monotone. Like we talk about the and that gets very annoying, you know.
I got teachers like that.
Yeah, teachers. You know the teachers that you love where they're just like, hey, so what's going on? And they're like in it, you know, but then they can't. But then there's like moments where you have to bring it down and kind of.
But some of them just
90
minutes.
They just read from their thing.
Exactly. And now go on page 80.
Yeah.
And read for the next hour.
So I mean, like looking at 2020 and trying to like recap it that way. I was also going through like a whole bunch of really cool podcasts from last year, but those are like each podcast is so good. Hello and guten Tag. Yes, hi. Hey, what's up, Baba? Happy New Year. Well, we already did that New Year party, Mr. Baba. Yeah.
Von mir dafür, aber schönes Neues.
Yeah, exactly, Eric. Yeah, and I guess that's just the Boris. I guess that's just the trick, like. For me, as a family guy, and I always have this tendency to want to protect my family. So I think about like all this stuff that's happening, and it's funny. Like I have a tendency to like I have this book. I brought it with me. I've had this book for a while. It's called Emergency Food Storage and Survival Handbook. You know, it's like these preppers.
When stuff hits the fan.
Yeah, and so there's two different things that you like, which it's just to kind of think about it, like just to be prepared. But what normally happens is the reason that this is like food storage is normally like your best chances are just to stay home. The only thing that's really going to kick, because that's your cave, right? You got it all safe there. You could. But I guess the only time that you're ever going to have to leave, if you have to leave your house, it's really bad actually, right? Because then you're kind of stuck out there in the elements.
And what kind of situation are we?
Well, it depends on where you're at, right? So we're in Pasewalk. So I think the worst thing that can happen to us is, well, water sucks.
Yeah, that's true.
Water sucks. We're pretty low. We're lower. Like we're really close to the sea level here, but the water's far enough away that
I think so.
Like you'll probably see that coming. But I think the other worst thing when we had Marco Foya in here, he was talking about. He's a fireman, right? And he was talking about wind.
Oh,
yeah.
Can get windy.
Yeah, but so then there, it's like not. Yeah, it's not like a real. It's not like it's like a nuclear explosion, right? Like it's time. It's time. It's time to leave, right? If you got, but we don't really have that too much going on around here anymore. Still, it doesn't have to be that close.
No, that can be.
It can be far away, and you still have to take off. So, like, what do you do? But even with that stuff, it's like you have still a little bit of time. Like, there's this thing about having like a backpack full of all your stuff ready to roll, you know. And then
the emergency
bag, and then you have 3 kids, and you jump all into the bus and you drive somewhere, and it's like, oh God, do you prepare for that? How much do you prepare for that? Do you prepare for being home? But then you have like this whole thing. They had a really good point here of like, well, everyone's depressed anyway if something like that happens where you have to stay stuck at home. And so like you saw that with the beginning of Corona, how everyone would like go out and buy toilet paper and all this shit, you know, we're just like, really, toilet paper? But at the end, it's like, what are you trying to do? You're trying to keep everyone kind of in a good state of mind, so it's having food around that's not like different than your normal food. So you can like noodles and rice and things like that. So everyone doesn't feel like, okay, we're eating mush for the 40th time today.
Bark with water.
Yeah, because you have like these like military packages where you can,
ready to eat.
Yeah, but that just depresses you mentally. For like the kids are like eating on some cracker or whatever. And then so I went to this thing, this worst case scenario zombies survival. This is a cool National Geographic article. Use the adventure skills to survive the zombie apocalypse. So they're just trying to like make a joke out of it and say that like, what are the things if you're an adventure type of person, so what kind of skills would help you out of this like hobby basically. and they say like you gotta build a fire. No, can you build a fire?
I don't. I've
Yeah.
watched Bear Grylls do it 100 times, but I don't.
Yeah, I
know
mean,
if could
I can
do
build it with
myself.
these little starters, but once I'm out of those, then it's like,
This stuff like the bow or.
yeah, I
where-
think that's the stick one seemed a little bit easier, huh?
Yeah, where you just spin the stick on the.
Well, I think there was like you had like a flat piece. I should look at a video of that or find like a video of that real quick. I think you have like I had like a flat piece of wood, and then it was even maybe a little bit grooved. And then you have like on one end you have this little starter, and you just kind of it's easier to kind of go like because this whole spinning thing I don't think you can. It doesn't seem like you can get enough.
heat
It like
from-
rolls out of your hands. Like it.
I've seen someone. Then they got another long, whatever stick that's curved,
Yeah.
and they put the stick that's spinning between the Faden, der da durch ist. So, und dann dreht sich.
You switched to German.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
tried
understand.
to
Faden.
the
If it's Faden. It's like it's between two. Like just pull up a video. Like there's between like two. Yeah, so that it stabilizes the stick, right? So the stick doesn't fly out.
so you don't get all of your hands all rashy and.
Yeah. Yeah. So you got to start a fire. That's the fire will keep you warm, fed, and safe whether you're roughing it. And I think the one thing that a lot of people forget, I when I was reading this, I was like, oh yeah, drink wisely. So obviously, like the funniest thing that can happen to you in the nature is drinking bad water, right? And then you get sick and die. So don't do that. Boil your water. It says boil your water for at least 3 minutes here, huh? Says the CDC recommends boiling for 1 minute or 3 minutes if you're above 6,500 feet. 6,562 feet in elevation. Waterborne illnesses are no joke, and any adventurer worth their salt knows the dangers of catching one. Avoid this hazard by understanding the guidelines ahead of time. So then you got to get down and dirty if foraging. It says experienced forager knows just how much the earth can provide. Yeah, mushrooms. Get your stuff from the nature, but knowing like what plants are edible and what plants are not edible. It's a helpful one. And then you got to learn to catch your dinner, so fishing. And this is funny the way they said this. It says if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. If you teach a man to fish, he'll eat until the water supply is so polluted the zombie virus that all the fish become inedible. I can't even read today. I never really can read. I got to practice that. If you teach a man to fish, he'll eat until the water supply is so polluted by the zombie virus that all the fish become inedible. But fishing is actually a really easy way to survive, right?
Yeah, I would think so. Even I can fish.
Yeah. And it's like, as long as you know what fish, around here I think pretty much everything's edible. Not everything tastes good,
And
but
that's
it's edible.
and if you're allowed to catch it.
Well, I mean,
back in the apocalypse.
in the apocalypse, it's all open game.
I saw a video on my YouTube of a dude who's fishing in the LA River. He's fly fishing in the LA River.
God. That's
And he's
probably
eating
like,
it.
remember that Simpsons episode where the fish had 3 eyes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Until that day comes, though, fishermen are going to have one up on the rest of us. Because just the difference between fishing and hunting, right? Like, I think it just between.
That takes
You got
a
a
bit more
more
hunting.
skill to learn how to, even just to trap. If you're just trapping, like,
Mm.
I don't know, around here you can probably trap, like, I don't know, fox probably is bad to eat. A rabbit,
Rabbits, yeah.
yeah. Rabbit stew, just like the hobbits. I remember when, what was his name, the little Gollum, he was like so pissed that the hobbits were cooking it, you know?
He's
like, you ruined it, you ruined it. He just wanted to eat it raw. Yeah. Floating tent. Oh, this guy, they got a floating tent here. Be a good housekeeper. Campsite care. A floating tent. Zombies don't sleep, so you're going to have to find a safe place to rest your eyes at night. Alternative arrangements like this floating tent might keep you. That's a way to, like, put a product right in there. So for them, like, honey, what did you buy on Amazon? Well, it's a floating tent. Why? I'm like, well, in case of the zombie apocalypse, then we can just sleep on water. Unless, like, in what was that one with
Bird Box.
no, World War Z with yeah, that was a crazy movie too. With Brad Pitt, where the zombies were like, they were so crazy they like stacked on top of each other, and they're just like shooting them down. That was
Uh,
nasty.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
Yeah.
A good zombie if you like that kind of.
Yeah, because Tristan sometimes he'll talk about zombies and he's like, dude, you got time. I'm like, well, it depends on the zombie. If you get a zombie like in that movie, there was no time. They were jumping. They were like stacking each other like ants and like taking down helicopters and stuff. It's good that we got this really important topic today. Get your bearings. Map reading. Map reading's it's also another, like all of these things. Honestly, we just don't practice them in our daily lives. So you'd have to bootstrap a lot of this knowledge. It's tricky. Trail running, build up your endurance so you can run away. It says if you've been crushed by 28 days later zombies who sprint and solve simple problems, you're probably out of luck. Yeah, what was that one? 28 days later. What was that movie? I remember that. I don't remember that one anymore. Oh yeah. That's where they were. It was. I think it was from Great Britain, that one, right? And they were shooting those people.
4 weeks of isolation.
Yeah, I think they were in London or something like that.
UK.
Yeah. No bueno. Yeah, so run away. And don't be afraid to get high. Climbing. I like this picture of these people just sleeping. Like, there's no way zombies are going to make it to that one. That's the way to do it. That'd be nothing for my wife, though.
I'm
Or my
asking how
kids.
they got that stuff up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they climbed up there and hammered it into the stone, right? These anchors. You got to have a lot of trust of your hammering skills for that.
In the boats.
Think fast. It says skiing. Why would that? Well, I think they're trying to take all of like the adventure skills and then just put them into like, well, you can ski away from the zombies, you know. And archery, that's a good one too. I think that would be one of the sports like that would be cool to learn because you could technically, if you're good enough at it, you could start. You can't in Germany, but you could technically try and hunt with that, even if the guy's fishing with it there, if you know what you're doing.
Balancing and standing, paddleboard. And
Paddling,
use a
yes.
bow.
Yeah, it says yeah, on a paddleboard shooting into the water. That's pretty badass. And then this guy's just saying paddling in general. Paddlers of the past used bodies of water to move heavy cargo, travel far distances quickly, and cover tracks. Practice the ultimate escape. Paragliding? Come on. Seriously. No. The creepiest adventures on earth. Anyway.
Oh, my paraglider.
Yeah, come on. Like, well, they, in some of the movies where you're on top of the building, and you like get stuck on top of the building.
Oh,
That would be,
and
and you're like, oh yeah, I got my parachute. And then just jump right off and hang glide out of there.
a
And,
group of 20 people, you're the only one with a parachute.
yeah. Don't
you
tell
later.
anybody until you jump off the building. Yeah. So that's the thing about the zombie thing. I guess I've been thinking about building like this truck, kind of like a. Once we get rid of we have this family van, this VW T6 van. It's not really popular in the States. I don't think they even have them in the States, but it's kind of like the original Volkswagen van on drugs, right? In 2000, I think it's a 2018 or 19, something like that. It's a decent van. It drives good. It's nice. It's clean. It's new. It's like, well, you can't complain about it. But I was looking at these Fords, like these bigger ones, like a little bit bigger, like more of a transport van, and then converted it into like, this whole hashtag van life bullshit. But I like this, they call it overland vans. So they have, yeah, so you have like an all-wheel drive, or a four-wheel drive style van, and then it's big enough to where you could create like a bed in the back and a mini kitchen. And the bathroom, no. Like, if you can't in there, like people do it, but it just takes so much space. And since we have 3 children, you want to travel with everybody. And I was kind of thinking like it'd be an alternative to like a actual motorhome. And then I realized that like people that travel with 3 kids and these things are just gaga. Like there's a couple of them and they're just because they stack the beds in the back, and it's because it's such a small compared to like a even a German style or European style motorhome, they're still 2.5 meters or 2 meters 30 wide. In the States, they're even wider and bigger, but here like 2 meters 30 is enough to where you can still navigate through the smaller cities and like through the cities centers in Europe. And with an American style one, you probably wouldn't even make it. You probably like, I'm just not gonna even go into the cities.
Just stay on the main road.
Yeah, and so you start to like check off these things like, well, what do I need? Like, like I have this thing in the back of my mind, like, oh, I want to have like this escape plan, and I want to have like this van, and it's sitting there, and it's full with everything, and it and we can, if
Hopping.
we need to take off, then we can go, and you could make that work. But what are the what are the odds that you're ever going to use that?
Yeah,
Ever?
of course.
Never. It's like totally just it's totally just like this. Yeah, it's me just trying to find a reason to have another hobby.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
like,
it's
oh, then
also-
I can do that, and then the worst thing about it was it would take away from like doing this. Because I was like, well, then when are you going to build it? Wenn ich das so höre, bin ich auch mal froh, dass ich da bei der Bundeswehr war und das alles sogar noch schießen gelernt habe. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, all of these things that are happening, that's the thing. Like, shooting is a good thing to know, but also like something to practice, too. I was talking to Baba about that. Like, wouldn't it be nice just to go and I was saying, well, I have such a hard time with guns in Germany in general, because that's a big difference between Germany and the United States, right?
Yeah.
Guns.
That's a very, very big difference.
It's also a moral difference. I think that a lot of Germans. The coolest thing is that you have a lot of Germans that a lot of guys like Baba. They've been in the military, so they know what the deal is. But like on a social level, the guns are not nearly as accepted. And
Guns bad.
yeah, well, you know, and then it comes to like, especially when you start to like when you have children again. We go back to this topic where it's like you discuss that at home with the wife. I grew up with guns. You know, I was shown how to shoot guns at a very young age, and I have a huge respect for that. You know, I have a lot of respect for guns because of that. So I don't, like I was telling Bubba, like I don't trust when I was a kid and I'd come home alone. I'd be at home alone maybe for like, you know, after school, and I was like in 4th, 5th grade or whatever. And my dad had like just a huge, like in all his closet, just like 20 guns, because he was a cop he was not a cop, but he was like I'm saying this in German and English in my mind. He's a fish and game warden in California. And so he had he had to confiscate weapons from hunters if they're hunting illegally and whatnot. And so he had to keep them in his possession until the case went to court. And so he'd have like 20 or 30 guns just sitting there sometimes.
From different.
And though my friends kind of like, if they knew that, or if they kind of were in his office once, then we said hi to him before, and then they come back like, wait, your dad's not here. Can we check out his guns? Like, no, dude, I didn't trust him at all, because I realized that like if you're not someone that's grown up with that, then you don't have that respect for it, and pulling the trigger is just so easy.
It's stuff you don't play with if you.
Yeah, but if you don't, like if you always
Don't
played
know
with
about it.
toy guns, like I saw Tristan the other day, I went over to his to pick him up from his buddy's house, and they're playing with these fake guns out there in the yard, and it was just like, okay, come here, Tristan. You know, he's just like click, 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 and they're all shooting each other, you know, and I had to kind of give him the old, like, a gun is always loaded. The first rule, the gun is always loaded. What? It's not loaded, it's a toy. Yes, but the problem is, if you think that these things are toys, and you have one in your hand that's not a toy, and you pull the trigger, you will kill your friend. And he's like, oh, he's like, well, I totally downer, Dad. Thanks. You know, he's just out there playing in the backyard. But, you know, and I think you can talk to it all you want, but until you take him with you to the range,
And it's so powerful.
and he experiences pulling the trigger himself, and he feels the pressure, like you feel the pressure of the bullet and the explosion and just holding it and being afraid to pull the trigger. You kind of are at first, you know what? I remember I was like 10 years old, and I just remember being like sitting there, and my dad just being like, it needs to surprise you when it explodes, you know, like when the bullet. I'm like, well, why? Well, he's like, because you're going to anticipate the recoil.
Push.
So that's, and you see it in like bad movies. The guys, when they shoot like that, because it looks good on movie, because it's like, I'm shooting here and I'm shooting there, but you can never hit what you're shooting. If he's like, you just sit there and you hold it and you breathe in and you hold it and you have it on target and you just squeeze really slowly until it just goes off. And you'll hit the target when you do that, because you're not trying to, like, every little millimeter, especially like the further away you go, right? So every little mistake you make just gets larger and larger. And so it's really interesting. It turns into like a really cool hobby.
Yeah.
It was I remember just thinking, like, back in the day, how much fun I would go on the weekends with him. We'd drive up there. We'd be gone all day. You know, we'd drive up to like a shooting range. He had all the keys, because he had like all the keys to all of the places. And we lived close to, like, in the Los Angeles area. And so he had all the keys to all the mountains up there where they were closed off for normal people, and he'd just go up there, unlock it. There's so many cool stories.
There.
Like growing up, like being a passenger with a fish and game warden, it was totally like not allowed what we did because I wasn't allowed to go with him on these rides. He's a you know, he's an officer of the law. He's one of the I think they were one of the first fish and game wardens. I think were one of the first peace officers to actually carry weapons on duty. Obviously, because they're controlling hunters, so they have like there's guns everywhere. Yeah. Where like a normal police officer, you know, in the city, say my job's way more dangerous. But there was situations where we'd be out in the middle of the night, mountain controlling like a car full of, well, not me always, but like he would be controlling like a car full of hunters, all with loaded weapons. And he's like the only guy out there, and like the next person to save his ass is like 2 hours away, you know, and he's sitting there, no radio contact. Because the mountains are so up, like sometimes you couldn't, like he would try and hit repeaters. He'd have to like drive up to the top of a mountain and hit like the next repeater
so a signal
to get to like dispatch down in the valley. And it was really cool. Like in the Angeles National Forest, being up there, that's like I can probably go on for hours about just the things that we experienced up there. Like looking down and into the valley on a clear day and seeing like Catalina Island. You could see it from the
Catalina Island.
Yeah, it's that
Kettle in the island.
No, Catalina Island is the name of an island like right outside. Like you could see it basically. It's its own little island off the coast of the west coast of California in Los Angeles area, and you could see like you could look down all of the Los Angeles area when it wasn't smoggy. Like only maybe if it was like the wind would. Smoggy. Yeah, there's a lot of. I don't know what it's like now. Back then it was bad. Like there was so much
smog.
A lot of smog, and you'd go down, like we'd go to Northern California to visit my family, and then we'd go back down to Los Angeles where we lived as a little separate family unit, and we'd always get like sore throats right away and stuff like that. It's crazy. Anyway, I digress. Learning to shoot, I think the thing is like what I was saying about just trying to have the hobby and trying to think like, oh, if I can get this bus, then it'll be like the lifesaver, but you'll never really use it. What if you had to? I wonder what the probability is. What are the probabilities of some that you like in a developed country that an emergency is so big that you have to, you know, it's like a black swan. Like nobody knows. You can't guess what the chances
what
are.
has to happen.
And how much effort do these people, like this book in itself is kind of cool. Like it's a guide. And then, you know, things will come in Amazon, like these candles that you can light even though they're wet and stuff like that. They'll show up and Francie will be like, what is that? You know? She made me send back the toilet. There's like this self-enclosing toilet, you know? Yeah, that you could like, well, what if you're like stuck? I was like, well, what if you're stuck here and the water is off? She's like, well, and you can't go outside. And like you have to put all those situations like...
You can't go outside.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't. What if you can't?
Oh, like when in this one game there is you go down in your cellar because a nuclear strike hit.
Yeah, but that doesn't help you. That's what she always says too. She's like, yeah, nuclear strike. It doesn't unless you're in the cellar and the game was it like a full on zinc, isn't it? Like doesn't it have to be in zinc. Bly, yeah.
What's lead?
Yeah, Bly is Blech. English translation. Bly, pale. No.
Bly is glaube ich lead.
Lead. Yeah, you're right. It's lead. You have to go in like a lead
box
under
the earth.
Apparently, right? So like lead. What do you call it? Like a cellar or like a cellar protect against.
The main plot of the game is that you have at the beginning of the game you have 1 minute to get everything out of the house you need, like
just a minute.
You know, like food, your kids, your wife. You have to throw them all in the hole.
Yeah.
And then you have to see how long you can stay down there with the stuff you packed in the minute you had at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Yeah, a fallout shelter is an enclosed space specially designed to protect occupants from radioactive debris or fallout resulting from a nuclear explosion. Many such shelters were constructed as civil defense measures during the Cold War. During a nuclear explosion, matter vaporized in the resulting fireball is exposed to neutrons from the explosion, absorbs them, and becomes radioactive. When this material condenses in the rain, it forms dust and light, sandy materials that resemble ground pumice. The fallout emits alpha and beta particles as well as gamma rays. Oh yeah, we all know about the Hulk and gamma rays, right? Much of this highly radioactive material falls to Earth, subjecting anything within line of sight to radiation, becoming a significant hazard. A fallout shelter is designed to allow its occupants to minimize exposure to harmful fallout until radioactivity has decayed to a safer level. That's always my question. Like, it takes a while, right? Like, you got to stay in there for what?
Mm-hmm.
A while. I mean, how long did you have to stay in there in the game?
As long as you make it with all the stuff you have.
It says here, inhabitants should plan to remain sheltered for at least 2 weeks, with an hour out at the end of the first week.
Yeah, in the game you can decide if you want to go out or not, and if the timing is right, you won't get sick if you go outside, and if you have a gas mask and stuff, and your gas mask can break, and you get sick anyways because you took the broke one and not the repaired one.
Yeah, it says this is even from the Swiss Civil Defense Guidelines here. That's cool. Let's read those. Swiss Civil Defense Guidelines for a nuclear reaction, nuclear fallout. Bunkers for all. That's cool. Switzerland is unique in having enough nuclear fallout shelters to accommodate its entire population.
Yeah.
Whoa, dude, that's nice really information.
That's
here,
really cool.
I'll give you the link on here on our chat. I didn't know that.
Bunkers for all.
So why on earth have you got a reinforced steel door in your cellar? The amazement of a visiting Italian friend is easy to understand. He has never been in the basement of a Swiss home. Cellar? Well, the room is half full of bottles and wine, old books, a freezer, unwanted clothes, but a cellar is it certainly is not. Our friend has simply stumbled upon a fallout shelter. Our fun. Thanks to the thick armored door and ventilation system with anti-gas filter, if the worst came to the worst, the 25 or so tenants of our block would survive even a nuclear strike. These Swiss, paranoid and obsessed with security, our friend must have thought. And there's probably some truth in that assessment. The Swiss do, in fact, spend more than almost any other nation, more than 20% of their budget to insure themselves against everything and everyone. But there is a more simple reason. It's a legal requirement. Whoa. Every inhabitant must have a protected place that can be reached quickly from his place of residence, and apartment block owners are required to construct and fit out shelters in all new dwellings, according to the Articles 45 and 46 of the Swiss Federal Law of Civil Protection. Damn. This is why most buildings constructed since the 1960s, the first regulations on this subject were passed in 4th October 1963, incorporate a fallout shelter. In 2006, there were 300,000 shelters in Swiss dwellings, institutions, and hospitals, as well as 5,100 public shelters providing protection for a total of 8.6 million individuals, a coverage of 114%.
They got even room for visitors.
Whoa. So the Swiss are undoubtedly world champions in the construction of shelters. A quick international survey is rough to demonstrate that no other country can rival it. The closest are Sweden and Finland, but with 7.2 and 3.4 million protected places, respectively, 81% and 70% coverage. They're still far behind. The situation in other European countries does not even compare. In Austria, for example, coverage is 30%. And in Germany, the national level of coverage is a mere 3%. Outside Europe, that's a supply and demand problem in Germany. So if anyone knows that you have one, the other 97% of Germany is going to be knocking on your door. That's cray-cray. Well, so I guess if you're going to, why bankers go bunkers for bunkers?
Bonkers for bonkers.
Bankers go bunkers for bunkers. When the Cold War thawed, many of Switzerland's underground military bunkers underwent a radical transformation. Some are now owned privately. And, wow. I guess that would be interesting.
If every country would be like Switzerland, there maybe would be more peace, because everyone is spending all the money on their own stuff.
Look at that one. Look at that picture of that. That's bad. Dude, that's like, It looks like a home theater with rocks and everything, and they're just eating dinner on the other side of the window.
Your,
That's
your
badass,
personal
dude.
private cave.
Yeah. The coordinates of the K20 Central Compound, $235 million bunker, used as a commercial center during times of war by the Swiss government, has been published several times in Swiss and foreign media. The K20, let's check out a video on that, dude. K20 Central Compound. Just YouTube that one. Give me a video there. We got nothing.
Okay.
Maybe can you type in like Swiss or something? I don't know. Oh, dang it. Never mind.
Schade.
A SFR 259 million. Okay, I guess that's the francs, right? The
Franken. Jo.
National
Schweizer
Rebound.
Franken.
Inside the world's largest private apocalypse shelter. Here, on Forbes. That's so dope. Inside the world's largest private apocalypse shelter, the Opidium. New images.
The Opidium.
Yeah, I wonder if that's if they're gonna actually show it on, or if that's just a variable. It's just variable. Let's see if they show it in a second. Oh yeah. Or world war, climate change, economic collapse. They're gonna show it. Come on, yeah, click it on there.
So, ich kann nicht mehr
Ah, so you can't go in front.
pausieren.
It does keep going though. Let it roll. It says in the event of a catastrophe, introducing the Opidium. Can you turn the volume up?
Hat's. Ist war blocked.
Look at that. It's got a helicopter.
Even a little golf course.
Marketed as the largest billionaire bunker in the world. The Opidium is a massive 323 square foot property. 323,000. The house, the largest residential doomsday shelter in the world. Situated in a secret location in the Czech Republic. The floor plan contains 6,750 square feet apartment and 1,700 Swansea 20. Sorry. Oh, whoa! They're just going too fast for me. Fitness center. It looks like a beautiful hotel and other leisure facilities. It's huge.
Casino.
Oh.
Wine cellar.
The complex is fully customizable. Okay. Oh, so you're kind of just like you can even have your art collection there. Oh, that's not. The bunker will be able to provide accommodations for up to 10 years without the need for external supplies. Just because it's the end of the world, it doesn't mean can't live in luxury. Oh, yeah, right, dude. The Opidium will be. It's not even finished yet, so it will be more than. Es überlegen dann aber nur Menschen, die nicht wissen, wie man eine Tüte Milch aufmacht. Gute Nacht, Menschheit, anyway. Die erschaffen sicher keine neue Gesellschaft. Deren erste Frage, wenn die Türen wieder aufgehen, wann macht der River wieder auf? Exactly. The Opidium will be more than an underground bunker for dangerous times. It provides an above-ground residential estate in which the owners can maintain a high standard of living in a secluded area above ground during times of potential danger. The compound is protected by multiple high-security systems. The residents can... The thing is, like, you're going to be in there with, like, these other people, and shit's going to hit the fan. It's not going to go well.
A lot of snobs in one building.
It'd be
in
different
one
if you're
bunker.
like when we were talking about this whole like these tribes and stuff like that. Like I was talking to Marcus about that too. Like it was such an interesting thing to think. Like even here in Pasewalk, and I was thinking like, well, why is it so tricky just to like talk to Torglo and to talk to Pasewalk or talk to Prenzlau and like just be like, we all need to help each other out right now in our little villages and just I don't know whatever it is. Like we need to figure out like online shops and how do we help each other get through this hard time and it's like it's not happen. It doesn't happen, and it kind of brought me back to the article that we thought about. Wait, but why? Because it was like that same thing where you remember that picture of the dude.
Which dude we saw a lot of.
No, the wait, but why with like the dudes with the story of us, and it talked about. I'll go back to the story. I'll just show you the picture. It's just easier to show you. So when it was when it was like the game of giants, and then
With
it.
brothers and
Yeah,
things and cousins.
I think that was chapter 3, right? Or was it chapter 2?
Game of Giants.
Yeah, I think it was Game of Giants because like it kind of went down. I'll scroll down a little bit real quick because there was like the spiders, and yeah, exactly. That's what it was. Keep on going. Once you get down to like the emergence unit individual. This is such a cool thing to go back to. Keep going, yeah, keep going.
Spiders.
Yeah, there. So me and my brother, and so that's like exactly what that topic is. Like why don't we in our society right now, like where we're at in this tiny little village, I think we have like 10,000, 11,000 people, so it's tiny on the scale of the world, but in the scale of this here, like even if it's just me and my brother, then we're gonna fight. But as soon haha, that shitboy cousins are at it again. So then they see their cousins and they're like, oh wait, now my brother and I are together, and now we're against our cousins. So it even on the most basic level, if you don't have any competition outside of you and your brother, you'll fight with your brother. That's just how humans are. That's what he's proposing here. So because what happens is, like, I guess that's the thing that they kind of break it down. It turns into how much competition is, like, do you have these forces from the outside? So if, let's just say, if all of a sudden, I don't know, like a good way of saying it would be like, what if Shireen, like what if what if Rostock, which is like 250,000 people, whatever, they're like, fuck you guys, we're gonna have our own money, this is our own shit. You're like, God damn, but we're like not there. We're like close to Rostock. That's probably, maybe we should like kind of stick together with Prenzlau and Torgelow and Ueckermünde. We should probably make our own little our own little community, because otherwise Rostock's just gonna come over here and be like, fuck off.
It's ours.
Yeah. So maybe that, because there's no competition like that, there's no reason for us to stick together. Like there's no a direct threat for us because Germany's on top, and that's just all it is. And even if you look at it on a global scale, it's like even on like a global scale, the United States and Germany, they're pretty friendly. There's not really any problems there. This is obviously all this stuff. It's like so superfluous to actual survival. And you see it with the pandemic and how that kind of plays into, where are the policies and where's the information, and nobody knows, and blah blah blah. And I mean, I was there's a whole nother thing that can go on there about like if everyone's doing things right and wrong, and how we are influenced on the like one level we're stuck at home because of like the government telling us to stay home and stuff like that, and the tendency is to be like, oh dude, come on, yeah, but there's science behind it too, and so trying to understand that science is probably the first problem, that, to be honest, like especially if you don't want to.
Yeah.
All right.
In this kind of situation with the pandemic and stuff, some people, if you don't want to understand that the mask has to go over your nose in the store, then it might be a very hard challenge for you to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, but this is an interesting thing. I'll show you this link here, because this guy is kind of just to kind of to go down this rabbit hole a little bit. This guy, his name is Nassim Nicholas Taleb on Econ Talk. He was on this podcast. I was going to go over this a different time. I might go more deep into it later. So his key takeaway is called, I guess the name of it was The Pandemic, Power of Masks, Level of Risk, and More. So when taking risks, avoid risks of ruin. In other words, take all the risks you want today, but make sure you're around for tomorrow. So collective risk doesn't scale linearly from individual risk. So it says if one person doesn't wear a mask and they have COVID, they can put the lives of many others at risk. That's just science, right? So it's just like wearing a mask. I wear a mask not for myself, but because the person I'm going to infect will infect maybe 10 more. Wearing a mask is a small risk, uncomfortable and hot, but a big reward. Stops the spread of COVID. You reduce the chances that you are asymptomatically spreading a deadly disease to potentially, as you say, dozens of people. And pandemics rarely happen, but when they do, they cause an existential risk, so it's important to stop them early on. It's interesting the way you put it. Pandemics are the fattest tail thing. So you got a fat tail, and that you got to kill them in the egg.
So as soon as early as possible.
Yeah. Because it's got a big tail.
Nassim is dropping some.
Yeah, Nassim isn't a fan of the World Health Organization. It's a bureaucratic organization that has been devastating for mankind because of its incompetence. So he threw like the World Health Organization because they've kind of always been like, don't do this. We're not going to do anything. Like they haven't really made any helpful recommendations. They kind of also said that the lockdown's bullshit and stuff like that.
Also,
Which kind of when you hear that from them, you're like, okay, I'll go with that, you know.
You're the health organization.
And this is an interesting thing. Science is not about evidence. It's about properties. So there are no clinical data on whether it's unsafe to jump from an airplane without a parachute at 35,000 feet. But since we understand gravity, we don't need clinical study.
Yeah, that's true. But to say science is not about evidence,
It's about properties.
it's a
What are the
tricky title.
What are the properties? Averages and forecasting are a lot less useful in science than people think. So when he talks about that last one, I wonder kind of here, the limitations of science. It says that there are no clinical data of the thing, but he says averages and forecasting are a lot less useful in science than people think. It's important to realize that you can't work with averages and you cannot work with forecasting. So the top 1% of Americans own about 50% of wealth, but Jeff Bezos alone accounts for the main portion of that because he's worth nearly $200 billion. So that's like a perfect thing of like the top 1% of Americans own about 50% of the wealth. But Jeff Bezos alone accounts for the main portion of that, of that 1%, right?
Because he's
So you,
rich.
yeah, but you think of that 1% being like more than just him, right?
No, maybe
So-
3 other people.
Well, no, but they always have like the top 100 and stuff, and everyone's that's a billionaire. You know, how many billionaires do you really have in the world? A lot of billionaires.
That could be.
I mean, a lot less. There's a lot less billionaires, but there's more than I think you. I mean, you know, like it's a good question. How many billionaires are there? You know, just to say, yeah, 2,825
Exactly. Like
Yeah,
that you can
as
say
of
it like that.
in 2019. Yeah, that's yeah. So you 3,000 fuckers out there. They're not all gonna fit in. They're not all gonna fit in that shelter. By the way, that wasn't enough for 3,000 people.
Einer muss ich
We need more shelters for those billionaires.
Someone has to.
You got to have $1 billion to get into that shelter, without a doubt.
probably. Have
That's
to get the golden ticket in the entrance.
yeah, with like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Oh, where were we now? I lost my link. Damn it. Forbes. Where was I at?
The opium. Jump from the opium to
Forbes, right?
Forbes, yeah.
No, but I
What do you
was
mean?
at
The last video we watched was on Forbes about the apocalypse shelter that's so
No, I was reading something else. Dang it. I lost it. What was I reading?
the stuff of Nassim.
Yeah, exactly. Podcast notes. That's what it was. Thank you, man. This is really cool. Oh, nasal breathing also important. Is it here? Yeah, and so he says that like the interesting thing about that 1% thing is a river that is on average 3 feet deep can kill you because it can have sections where it's 60 feet deep. So like if you look at a river like on a statistical thing, it says well the average depth of the river is 3 feet, but it'd still be deadly because there's parts of that river that can be 60 feet deep because it's just an average. It's Durchschnitt. No? That means that you have a representation of reality, but it's not describable by an average, nor can it be captured by testing people's forecasting. So forecasting works best for thin-tailed distributions, like flipping a coin. You can likely get it ballpark 50-50. One reason forecasting works less well with diseases is that they can mutate. So it's largely because diseases, even COVID, which we think now something about, we know nothing because it can mutate. So he's not against modeling. He's just against naive modeling. And you can't do linear regression with fat tails. You can't use correlation when you have none. He's very. It's above me what he's saying there, honestly. But it says the Senate was a council of elders. Senatus is an old person. The golden rule of society is treat me the way you want to be treated when you're older, and respect that. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, it's maybe I should jump into that podcast. It seems pretty interesting, like his takes on it. It's the thing is like that's tricky is to try and figure out like where do you go in that, you know? Like the mask thing is true. It's like so easy, you know. And now I know that I was reading this article in The Economist that it's like now it's already mutated, so the vaccine's gonna come.
There's gonna be
there's already mutations. They've had cases of it being mutated. Or I think there's two different mutations right now. One in Great Britain, and it's probably already in Europe in general. So that's not gonna. So what they're gonna have to do is like the vaccine will come out, and then they're gonna have to. It's gonna take them about 6 weeks after they figure out what the mutation is to put that into a new vaccine. So it's not that bad if you think about it. It's pretty fast.
6 weeks? No.
6 weeks. It's not like another year. It's not you're gonna have to wait another year for the new mutation because by then it'll mutate again. And so the new mutation is also they said it was also more contagious, which is to be expected. So it's not more deadly. It's the same death rate, but it just
even faster.
It's just even easier to get like the viral load in your throat or whatever from these swabs is just higher.
Mm-hmm.
Before and you're still not showing symptoms. So the virus said, okay, pass out. I'm not going to do the symptoms yet. I'm just going to need to be more so that I can get spread on without symptoms. So it's just trickier so I can spread faster. It's just a normal mutation. I mean, it makes sense. Like when you think of like the survival of the fittest, that's what viruses do, right?
That's the main threat in plague ink.
Yeah. So that's what they're going to but they're on it like this and it's going to go into this whole thing and it's going to take 6 weeks. Maybe another 6 weeks, but we're looking at like it's going to be interesting how 21 rolls out with this whole thing. Like I actually after reading that, I realized like my first initial reaction was like, "Oh, that needle's not coming near to me," you know. But since I'm healthy and it's not going to come, I'm not going to be in the first wave of getting we're not going to get it until all the risk people have gotten it, right?
Like risk people are old people. And
they're going to start in the homes. Yeah, like in the elderly homes and stuff like that. And then people, all the people in the hospitals and stuff like that that are like right on the front lines. They're getting it. I talked to my aunt the other day and she's like, yeah, she knew like a nurse that got it. And she kind of broke it down for her. And so when you hear it like coming from these healthcare people that are like, give it to me, I need it, you know, because otherwise I can get infected and it just can hit me really hard and then I'm not maybe even if you're just 3 weeks down, you know, then no one's working at the hospital and no one's like helping the people that need to be helped, you know. It just turns into this whole thing. So I at first I had at first that's the other way around. At first I had like really I was scared. Then I had like this phase where I was like it's just all bullshit. And now I'm like coming back to where it's like okay, it's real. Like the reality's setting in. You can't get around it. It is what it is. You gotta.
Yeah, my main point is if it has to be done, let's do it, because I'm fucking afraid of needles. So very afraid of needles.
Yeah, well, I think you have to get over that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It was interesting. Like I appreciate The Economist. Actually, I even got it back to subscribing to them because the information there just seems pretty solid. Like it's like look at this. Check this link out. What to expect in 2021 according to prediction markets. So now we're looking in the future. John Kenneth Galbraith, an economist, once quipped that the only function of economic forecasting is to make astrology look respectable. We can. Oh, can you?
So ich brauche noch den Link.
It's on show notes. Yeah.
What's expect?
Yeah. So with normal life thrown, I appreciate the way that he said that the only function of economic forecasting is to make astrology look respectable. So he's making a good point that like can't. It's the black swan thing, right? But the way that this graphic goes, if you start at the bottom of it, you can't because you're not subscribed into it. I didn't realize that before we did this. Let's see if I can just take a picture of this real quick. Save as. Save image as. Yes, dude. I'll save the image and then you can just open it straight up to your thing. Desktop image coming at you in 5, 4. Send it to Discord. What do you say? Discord is the place to be. Thank you, Discord. Paste and drop. Yes. Upload. And it's. Oh, is it going? Yeah. 50%. The graphic is basically, I'll just explain it for people listening anyway. It's the article appeared in the graphic detail. So basically what happens is the implied chance of this happening in 2021 at December 28th, 2020. So they try and show you that's
the image, yeah.
That's not the image. That's weird. That sucks. Why does it look so bad? Oh yeah, it says on mine too the same way. Yeah, I wonder how you can sign into that. That's interesting. Anyway, I'll explain it. It's. I wonder if I can take
Oh, your screen is on.
Can I take a screenshot? Oh, my screen is on?
Yeah,
Okay, just do my
on
screen
yours.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I wonder if I can make that a little bigger. It's better now. Okay.
Yo.
Well, that was easy. I should have realized that my screen was on. So it says like in the area of sport and culture, you have Nomadland wins Oscar for Best Picture. Did you watch that movie? I don't know.
Nomadland?
Yeah.
I haven't watched any movies.
So what they're trying to say is it's very unlikely. So at the bottom of like sports and culture and the very unlikely, it's like it's like a 20% chance that this movie's gonna. It's just kind of give you the idea of how this graph works. So then like the 21% chance that India will win men's T20 cricket World Cup. So I guess they're not really gonna win. And then there's a 39% chance as we go up that the Euros men football won by a team that hasn't previously won. And then you have the 44% chance that Liverpool will win the English Premier League. And now we get to like the 50-50 chance. So staying in this area of sports and culture, we go to 53% North American box office revenues between $3 billion and $6 billion. So I guess that's probably bad, I'm assuming, because it's got to suck lately because no one can go to the movies. Even then, they didn't want to watch. Didn't they not want to release this this movie? What movie was it? It's supposed to come out. It's supposed to come out like a new movie, and then they didn't even want to release it because they don't want to put it in the box office where no one can watch. What was it recently? We were talking about it. I don't know. Then the 60% chance that New Zealand wins the American Cup in sailing. So that's on the sport and culture. Now we go to business and economics. It says a 19% chance that the S&P 500 declines by 20% and more. Well, that's kind of good. You want it to stay up, right? The EU gross domestic product, 32% chance that it will grow 4 to 6%. That's also, yeah. What does it says here? Oh, it says the same thing. 41% that the U.S. gross domestic product will grow 4 to 6%. And then you got 50-50. 50% big tech worth less than 22% of S&P 500. And then you got the oil price. They said 53% that the oil price is below $50 a barrel at the end of 2021. So they think it's pretty obvious that by the end of the next year, I think the oil price right now is what's it at right now?
Letztens mit irgendwem erst geguckt.
Crude oil. You looked at the crude oil price recently? Yeah?
Nee,
It closed at $48.
Okay, I understand the wrong thing.
The crude oil price?
Yeah, I've never heard of that word.
You don't know what that is?
No.
Okay.
Crude.
Crude oil price is what a barrel of oil costs.
Ah, okay.
Crude oil price explained. Boing. Crude oil prices measure the spot price of various barrels of oil, most common of which are either West Texas Intermediate or the Brent blend. The basket price of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and the futures price of the New York Mercantile Exchange are also sometimes quoted. TheBalance.com. Eliza's out of here. She's like, I'm done. I think it's like what a barrel cost, whatever.
Mm.
So I go back to this economist thing. Then you have like if you're going back on the business and economy, we're at 67% chance that the U.S. electric vehicle sales are below 350,000. Interesting. In 2009, because we had 330,000 in 2019. It says at the bottom. So they're saying it's not going to grow that much. Britain-America trade deal agreed, 71%. And then 97% chance that fewer than 125,000 daily flights in operation as of June 30th. So, no one's traveling yet. That's clear. That makes sense. So that's why it's such a good chance, right? So then we got COVID-19. We haven't talked enough about that today, but I'll just go through it real quick. The U.S. FDA approves. It's a 26% chance that U.S. FDA approves only 3 vaccines by June 30th. And they say 30% chance that the 3.5 to 4.5 million confirmed global COVID-19 deaths. 45% chance that 200 million to 350 million COVID global cases. 56% chance that U.S. buys over 1 billion vaccine doses by June 30th. And there's a 63% chance that over 450,000 confirmed COVID-19 deaths in the U.S., and 77% chance that U.S. reopens travel with EU countries by May 1st. Mom, Dad, did you hear that last one? There's a 77% chance that U.S. reopens travel with EU countries by May 1st. That's a pretty good chance. Assuming that you got your vaccine.
Since
That's the thing, though. It's like, oh, I'm going to vaccinate my kids just to travel to the... Oh, God.
That has to be, or will be like that problem, that you can just
You're only going to be able
go to certain events and travel and
if you're
fly
vaccinated.
If you're vaccinated, yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe testing will improve. So maybe it'll get to the point where you're able to do tests. Like if you're clear on a test and the tests are better, the testing's going to get cheaper. That you might be able to say, in the last 3 or 4 days, I've had a test. I'm negative. Or last 48 hours, I have like one of these new tests, and then I can say through this point, then I don't have to be vaccinated. I can just go
and show them that I'm clean.
Yeah, you have to prove that you have a negative test somehow. You have to go to like a state testing center or local county testing center. Get everyone tested. Everyone's negative. Get on the plane. And on the way back, the same thing. Like so, then it'd be back in the States, and then it's like, okay, go to the negative test, negative. Oh, miss your flight. Oh, buy a new flight. I don't know. You can't.
The next flight is in 3 days, 2 days.
No, and it's like, well, that's the thing. It's like, do you take that risk? I don't know. Who knows? We can't. The thing is, you can't even think about that shit until it happens anyway. That's the weirdest thing about. That's like what I've learned so much through this. Well, I just learned so much through this whole COVID thing that you just can't plan for the stuff that you can't control. You just cannot even waste your time on it because it just becomes a huge time hole. Time suck. So world news: 4% chance that America joins RCEP trade pact in Asia. Okay, so not a very good chance. Markus Söder elected as German chancellor. Bad chance. 28%. You don't know who Markus Söder is?
I've heard the name, but
I don't know who he is. I'm sorry.
It's probably then our next Kanzler.
You think so?
I don't know.
You don't know? Come on, man. 2021 is the hottest year in NASA's records. 31% of that. NASA's going big. Net migration to Britain below 100,000. Yeah, it's a good chance of that since Great Britain just jumped off the EU boat. They're doing their own thing. That's tricky. Visha Doctor.
Okay, so he's a doctor.
He's a doctor. World agrees. The 54% chance that world agrees new climate targets at COP26. 60% chance that Scotland announces new independence referendum, and a 74% chance that the U.S. rejoins Paris Climate Agreement by February 1st. Go Biden.
No, noise.
What?
Noise.
Noise.
Noise, sag ich.
Okay.
Climate change. Climate is...
Climate change?
It's very important.
Yeah. Politics, very unlikely. 11% chance that the U.S. adopts a public option for healthcare exchanges. 32% chance that Andrew Yang wins New York mayoral race. Andrew Yang's he's pretty cool. I think isn't he the guy that's to be a mayor, like become the mayor? Isn't Andrew Yang the guy that said that like every cop should know jujitsu, like be at least a blue belt in jujitsu or something like that? I thought it was him. Or some side of self-defense, right?
Yeah, but in a way where they...
Yeah, here it says when asked if it should be he was a presidential candidate too, right? When asked if it should be mandatory for all police officers to be jiu-jitsu purple belts, Yang said that it definitely should be, and that it would make us all safer, adding that it could help the cops be healthier as well. And what did he say on Twitter here? He says like, are you on me?
Mm.
Yeah, here's his tweet in January 20th. It would make us all safer if police officers were BJJ purple belts. Andrew Yang, Jiu-Jitsu for Yang. Hashtag Jiu-Jitsu for Yang. Hashtag Iowa for Yang. Jiu-Jitsu. 2020 presidential candidate Andrew Yang says it would make us all safer if police officers were BJJ purple belts. Dude, it honestly, like, sounds great, but even being a white belt, I know, speaking from experience as a white belt master that I am, that like just the first 6 months of being in these situations where you're getting choked and stuff like that, and you just learn how to keep your cool, and you just learn how to you just understand more about yourself and about like what it means to be choked. And I think you understand like I wonder how many things could be avoided if you had that as a police officer, if you had that basis in your, like, you would just know, like, I don't need my gun for like 90% of 99.9% of what I do. If you can control the situation with that, and having that confidence and not being afraid, because I think a lot of that, if you see like these guys that are overweight, or they're trained on their gun all the time. But what if they trained also, like there's also training. It's not just only gun training, right? Like you do a lot of combat training too. But I think the one thing that, I mean, I've never been in this training, and I've just seen it at home. And my mom went through it. My fathers have gone through it. You know, Mark was into it. Craig was into it. And my biological dad did some other stuff later in life, but like just talking to like Mark about it a lot with growing up as a kid, like, and he would go to these trainings and they would learn a lot of stuff. And then he asked me about jiu-jitsu too. Like he asked me like, so what's it like? What are you doing? And the thing that he explained to me was that like a lot of these tactics that they're learning, these hand-to-hand combat tactics, or like, you know, taking control of the situation, these wrist locks and stuff like that, like you have that in jiu-jitsu as well. But what you don't have a lot, I think, in these trainings, in at least the ones that he told me about, was all this on-ground grappling kind of stuff. Like, because most fights, they end up on the ground. And so what happens when you're both, like, let's just say both people start on their knees, right? Both people fell down, or you got in a sky, and you get up, and it's like you're on your knees. So you don't have time to stand up anymore. And sometimes we start in that position. You start, like, knee to knee. And you're like, you just kind of have the hands and like, okay, let's go.
Oh, we saw that in that one.
Yeah, did they? Okay. Yeah, there was that one where we were watching the guy get his black belt, right? So when you start there, it's like, wait a minute. So I don't have my legs, and I just have the ground and my upper body, and starting from there, like I wonder how many cops would say that's cool. I'll start. Let's do this on the knees. You know, you think you feel pretty vulnerable if you've never been on your knees and you're in a fight, you're like, I need to stand up.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like if the guy stands up and I'm like, I just take his legs right underneath him again, you know, like he's not going to get up. I'm keeping him on the ground. That's like my jiu-jitsu job is to keep you on the ground, because the legs are the most dangerous part of a human being. You know, that's the best thing about jiu-jitsu, is that you're nullifying these two weapons. I mean, if someone knows how to kick, you're not getting anywhere near that guy unless you know how to get in there, you know, unless you know how to get under there and stuff like that. And even then, it's a dangerous game. Like standing up, like it's a whole nother level. Like when we do jiu-jitsu, and there's sometimes we actually probably do less stand. That's probably the weak side of my jiu-jitsu. When I just talk about myself, is in standing position. When you stand up and you start to spar like in standing position, there's too many things that can happen there. It's just too many chances. Like the guy, is he going to kick? Is he going to drop down? He can change levels. He can go up. He can go low. He can do a million things. But when I got him on his knees, I've nullified 50% of his body. You know, I've only and the legs are just extremely dangerous. Like any type of kick could end your life. You know, a lot of kicks, if someone knows what they're doing, even if they get lucky, you know,
lucky kick.
Yeah, a head kick or even a kick to the body and stuff like that. So just that alone, just that little basic white belt knowledge that I have right there, just allows me to know, like, you know, even if you're in that situation where the guy's going to stand, I'm going to stand up too, and now it's like, we're both standing up again. Like, no way, man, not going to happen.
We're going down.
Keep you on the ground and just try and control you on the ground and keep you maybe and like mount you or do whatever you got to do. Try and get on a choke or something like that. Yeah. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. Andrew Yang, that was a pretty good rant there, just from him. Like he's running for mayor of New York now. So 32% chance. Who's his running partner, or not partner? Who's his Andrew Yang for mayor? Mayor of New York. When is that anyway? He's running for mayor of New York. TheVerge.com. He's got a scarf, an American flag scarf. Oh, what do I got here? When is that anyway? June 22nd?
June.
And several yearly polls show that Yang, with a slight lead, showed 17% of respondents supporting Yang. A longtime New York resident, Yang first drew attention as a candidate for the Democratic presidential primary, focusing his campaign on the promise of a universal basic income. Oh, that too. Jesus. Yeah, universal basic income. I think that's common, huh?
Universales Basiseinkommen, like
Hartz IV.
Oh, okay.
But it's like more than that, right? Because Hartz IV, Germany's pretty, like, this is more relevant for the United States, because Germany's got such a good system and set up, and that, like, you can say it's good or it's bad, whatever, you know. But as far as like helping people that need the help, it's a good system, right?
That's true.
But they don't have that in the States, right? You don't have such a safety net. That's why I think you see that with COVID, how it just devastates people even more, because they don't have any basic income. They have nothing, you know, and they can't go to work, and it's like this whole process.
Everything is gone.
Yeah. So we're just really uppity today, but yeah. No, but I mean, I think it's, you know, at the beginning of the year, it's always nice to kind of look and to see like what goals we got going on, what do you want to do for the next year, and it's kind of to forecast what's going on, what's going to happen, and just kind of get a feeling for. I think this year you can tell, like, everyone obviously wants the break and wants it to just, but we all know the reality is going to set in differently. It's going to be more of a step-by-step thing, and there's going to be ups and downs, and it'd be interesting to see what happens with the financial markets and stuff like that, because it seems like it's got to go down, but it's not, and it's like, and the last but least, I'm a little bit on my edge right now. I don't know if I can jump into this. Maybe I'll do it on the next episode. So next episode, I'll just say it like that. We're going to talk about this book that I've been reading, and it's so interesting because it totally speaks to me and my learning of the German language. It's called How You Say It and Why You Talk the Way You Do. and What It Says About You by Catherine D. Kinsler. You can show her profile here exactly. She's a professor at the University of Chicago. Her research sits at the intersection of developmental and social psychology. Her work focuses on the origins of prejudice and in-group, out-group thinking, with an emphasis on understanding how language and accent mark social groups. She is also interested in food cognition and moral psychology. I came across her book on Blinkist, this little app, where Lex Friedman told you to get the Blinkist and blah, and it's pretty cool because it just kind of summarizes books and it gives you even the audio version. And if you like it, because it's like a little taste of it, then you can actually get the real book and read the full book.
Oh, that's St. Just also said that once, that you can...
Blinkist, yeah. It's true. St. Just also gave us that tip. True that.
Shoutouts.
Shout out to St. Just, man. Where you at, bro? He's working probably. So I'm going to go over that next time because I'm feeling a little bit on edge after all that information. I'd rather just... And I also want to do the book its justice. Like there's this thing I'll go over next time too, but it's just this from this kirkusreviews.com, and it says it says it's in her persuasive first book. University of Chicago psychology professor Kinsler maintains that the way we speak, whether in a foreign accent or non-standard version of our own language, or a high status one, quote unquote, affects both how we perceive the world and how we are perceived by others. And she has like different examples, even like studies of babies, children less than one age, and how they respond to foreign languages and stuff like that. And so I was listening to it, and I'm just like, there's just so many things where I'm like, oh yeah, that happened to me. Oh yeah, being in Germany with the accent, having like an English accent in my German, and then having a German accent in my English. So I'm basically on this little island of like with 5 other people in the whole world, and it feels like sometimes where like it's weird that it's such a weird thing to think that like you can actually be in some sense also like you don't even really know, people don't even really realize that they're judging you because it's happened so fast in our language. There's such a subconscious thing happening when you hear an accent and it happens, I've talked about it before, it happened when I was building a house, how I would deal with people, and you have to have like these high-level conversations about the project, and how people would kind of give me that look, and I noticed that look means that he's not even listening, he's just hung up on my accent. And so he's not even, like there's no listening happening because he's just stuck there, until I realized it and looked at him and I was like, I'm American, like this is my accent. No, yeah, but you have to like, and then you saw it like clicking. He's like, oh, okay, and it was on. But it's like so subconscious that he hadn't even realized that he was completely blocking. He wasn't even listening to my words, and I mean, you react to that subconsciously too, and that's maybe the reason why I was able to kind of catch it. But there's so many times where you don't catch that, or there's probably so many times even these days where we're doing something like business wise, and it's trickier to do business with people. For me, just because I think it's just because my accent. Like I think it could also be. I don't want to blame it for that. Blame like my accent.
Yeah, but sometimes it could be that when we try to figure out stuff. So if you want to get exactly one thing done like you want it, and then sometimes
when we're working together, just in our relationship, working together,
the language barrier. Sometimes I have to ask twice, or it's
not
that fast maybe, and other people don't ask, and then
and see the thing is like we get better at it because we've been working together for a year, and so you tend to like you said it the other day when we were talking the other day, but like when Doreen was here and you're like, and I said something and you totally understood me. Because it was like some mix between German and English, and just the way I said it, you knew exactly what I meant. But like for someone that doesn't know me, it's like, I'm lost.
Like an accent. It's an accent.
Yeah. But it's also like the mix between English and German gets it even worse. Cause I come back home, and I'm sitting there talking to like my family, okay, whatever. But if I talk to like my old neighbor when I used to live across the street. And he's like, your English has changed, dude. I'm like, what? He's like, you talk like your English is so. For him, it was really clear and like not so rumbly like I used to. Even though I don't think that's the case every now. I still think I think my English has suffered a lot too, as far because I just
If
don't
you
use it as much.
practice it, yeah.
Yeah, I think doing this in podcast in English has helped me. Just reading more and anyway. So I want to go more into that. There's a like reading the whole book and going through it, and then there's also like an interesting comment on here that is deleted. Oh, did he delete his comment? No, it's on here. The guy says, to enjoy this book as a fascinating as a fascinating study of the impact of accent in daily interactions among people, the reader would do well to stop at the end of chapter 5. So it's like everything up to chapter 5 he thinks is good. I even wrote this guy an email. I was like, dude, that's interesting perspective. Like, can you come on the show and talk about it? But I have to read the book myself past chapter 5 to understand, because he says that like the exploration of accent through ingenious experiments, especially with infants and children, makes for exciting reading. Beyond that, however, the book becomes a polemic. What's a polemic? Polemic is a strong verbal or written attack on someone or something. So he thinks that she starts to like attack something with the end of the book. Beyond that, however, the book becomes a polemic, concluding with the absurd urging that accent discrimination, quote unquote, be made an addition to the American with Disabilities Act. She thinks was going too far. Kinsler allows her own beliefs to run away with the rest of the book. As a result, the book, after a promising start, disappoints. Be interesting to see what his like, is he just being a troll, or is he like got also an academic level? Because he doesn't really have a picture here. He's just got an email address. I emailed him and asked him. We'll see if he gets back.
So everything after
chapter 5, he says, don't read it. But I'm not going to take his word for it. I'm going to go into that. So, yeah, that's that. Happy New Year, 2021. Episode 53 is on start today. We're going to go, I think we'll probably on Wednesday. What's today? Tuesday? So we'll probably go on Thursday. We'll do another stream. Maybe we just do the deep dive on that book. Let's see what's up. Thanks for showing up.
tuning in.
Peace and love. And until Thursday.
Till Thursday.
Goodbye, everybody. Bye-bye.